Hello, MIT 227. This is Janet Thompson doing a check-in with you. I hope everybody's semester is going well. This video is specifically over the training project assignment for MIT 227. So I'm going to go to the course content link. And at the very top here, we have our training project assignment. And this pretty much is the overview of everything. You're going to do a training for a 1.5 hour session. Now you can take longer than that if you want, but that's the minimum time I want to see you adapt this project for. And it will be over chapters 1 through 10. Now that does not necessarily mean you have to touch on every single chapter, but all of those chapters can be a factor in your training. So some of the items that you are going to need is an agenda and some example topics and there's lots of different templates that you can find to use for an agenda. I do want it formatted to look really nice, have a title, Medisoft training session for ABC Hospital. I do want to see specific time increments that's going to be spent on each topic. So some of the examples here are introduction and overview of Medisoft, how to schedule appointment, how to create chart numbers, how to enter charges, how to create reports, and any other topics from the book. And I also want to see what order you will present these and how much time it will take. So, for example, introduction to Medisoft itself, like an introduction to the program, could be a 15-minute time increment. So, example, 9 a.m. to 9:15 on the agenda. And how to make appointments can be 9:15 to 9:30. But this layout is totally up to you. So, I want to see what you can come up with on your own. And this is saved in its own Word document that's titled Agenda. The next requirement is the outline of training topics. So you're going to do a bulleted list. So you'll have your topic of interest, like introduction to Medisoft. That could be your topic. And underneath of that, I want you to explain in bulleted form what you're going to do for that section. So for introduction to Medisoft, you might have some bullets underneath of that heading. That's for the Medisoft menus, using the toolbar, and entering, editing, and saving data. So that's just for example. There should be a minimum of 5 topics in the outline. This document should be one full page, a full page, in length, size 12 font, and it can be double spaced. So this goes in its own document that's called Training Outline. The PowerPoint, I want you to create a PowerPoint that correlates with what you're going to discuss in your training and your outline. And you can use graphics for this from the book. You can use text from the book. So the PowerPoint does need to be 15 slides minimum. And the text on each slide should be minimal. You want to avoid full paragraphs of text, because somebody in a presentation setting that's watching that, they're typically, if it's like me, I'm not going to be able to read a paragraph of text. So especially if it's in a smaller font. So the smaller the text bytes that you can use, the better. And there must be a minimum of 7 graphics used from the book or the internet that coincide with the material. And this correlates with the review lecture that's with your outline. Then lastly, the hands-on training activity. You're going to create an activity for participants to complete. And some examples can be, you can use definitely information from the book. Creating a worksheet with the end of chapter exercises would be a good idea. Utilizing exercises in the chapter to create hands-on practice. So, for example, copying steps from exercise 5.1 and chapter 5 for the participants to do as a practice. And students may request end of chapter answers for one specific chapter you would like to utilize, and you would have to email me. So if you want to say, I'd like to get the answer guide for chapter 5, the end of chapter activities, I can provide you that up to one specific chapter. The activity in this document should have a title, and you do need an introduction paragraph that briefly explains how this activity would be executed. And you want to tailor this to somebody that's taking this information from you to conduct the training on their own. So you do have to have some specific instructions as to somebody that can take what you've made and be able to run with it and conduct it just from the instructions that you've given. And this gets its own document that's called training activity. So these are 4 documents, and this isn't due until April 21st, and it is submitted through this project link right here towards the top. And there is also a grading rubric that kind of explains how the points will be divvied out. So I'm going to open up the Smart Book, and this is the electronic book for MIT 227. So anything from chapters 1 through 10 is fair game. I think if I were to approach this assignment, I would probably start in chapter 2 and then maybe go through chapter 5. You could also start with chapter 5 and go down through chapter 10, or even do chapter 5 down through chapter 8. If you want to specifically focus on putting patient cases in, like when they come see the doctor for a backache or back pain, how you would input that information and then how you're going to bill it. So there's a lot of different options for you, but like I said, I would probably start with section 2. That would be my jumping off point. And I'm going to close that. So in the book, section by section, I would probably start with chapter 2 on section 2.2, the Medisoft menus. So in my agenda, I would probably put, let's say if I started at 9 a.m., I would probably put 9 a.m. to 9:15, introduction to Medisoft. And then in my outline, I would have introduction to Medisoft as my first header, and underneath of that I would have this first area focus, the Medisoft menus. And you know, any information here you can copy and paste from the book. So I can select this to copy and put in a Word document. One thing though, when you're copying pasting, I do want to see uniform text. I don't want to see several different text formats, because it doesn't really look professional. So once you get all of your information compiled, you can select all of it and clear the formattings if you want and make it whatever text that you want. If you want everything to be Times New Roman, I mean none of the fancy text like this stuff right here. But I do want to see consistent text formats when you're copying and pasting this information. So that's one section. And then I may decide we also are going to focus on the Medisoft toolbar. And I could possibly include information like this in my PowerPoint slides. Let's see how this would copy. And this whole table is not going to fit in a PowerPoint, but let's see how this. Okay, so it gave me all my images. So I would have to reassemble this. But this is a good base start for me to, it's already got my information in my PowerPoint slide, how I'd like for it to be presented. So, and again, with your PowerPoint, you need to, like this amount of text is okay, but you could not fit this entire table in the PowerPoint. So you'd have to break it up into sections. And that's just an example. That's not what you would necessarily have to do. And then here's an exercise. I might adapt this to use in my hands-on workshop activity. Let's scroll down here to the end of the chapter. So this provides a pretty good bulleted point overview that could coincide with your outline. So keep in mind the text at the end of chapter could be a good resource. You might want to do a matching activity for your workshop activity. And like I said, you can request for one chapter an answer guide. So I might, I can maybe copy this into a Word document. I'm going to erase this. And that, maybe I would format this first. Medisoft training. Let me make sure I spelled it right, training activity, and I can use that as my base. I probably would erase this text here and try to make it look a little bit better formatted. Number one. And usually I like to put spaces in. I don't like necessarily text all clumped together, but you know, this is up to you. I'm not going to be too picky as long as you have a pretty good activity outline. Let's see, the other example for the training project that I had for the activity, I think we had exercise 5.1 from chapter 5. So let's pull that up. So chapter 5. So working with cases. And where does the information begin? Okay, so here is exercise 5.1, creating a new case. And this is the beginning of the full exercise. Here we have 5.2. So you don't want it to be incomplete. So if you just did the exercise in 5.1, you are putting the information in, but you're not fully completing the case. And you can definitely take more than one page on your activity. And this is what I do if you're at MIT 228. This is what I do for your review exercises. I take this text and copy it into a Word document so you can have something printed out to work with. So there I just copied it and pasted it in my Word document. And like I said, my preference is I like to break this text up a little bit. This image is pretty large, so maybe I'll resize that and it gets the fit on one page. So again, I will be looking at your activity to make sure it is fully representative of what you're wanting to accomplish. So for this is inputting a case, so we definitely need to add more than just 5.1. I probably would need to add all of the exercises in chapter 5 into one document. So I'm going to come down here and get exercise 5.2, and I'm just doing Control C, excuse me, to copy that. So I might put up here in my header, Medisoft training workshop activity, and then maybe put a page number in. So if you get lost while you're doing it, you know where to refer to. So, and these are just general examples. One of the biggest aspects of being a medical administrative professional is doing training and training staff. So this is going to be a good activity for you. And again, anything from chapters 1 through 10 is fine. I would say as a minimum, I would like you to focus on at least 3 chapters. So, you know, I could do Introduction to Medisoft Scheduling and Entering Patient Information, and that would be a good 1.5 hour training. Working with cases, entering charges, and creating claims, that's a good chunk for a training. So this is really, this is just some general advice of what you can do. But I'm really looking forward to seeing what you come up with, because hopefully these are items that you can keep for a future professional portfolio later on. And I want you to get to be thinking about if you were in this training session as a participant, what would you want to learn, or how would you want it to be conducted? I think that's probably the best piece of advice I could give you going forward with this assignment. Is what would you expect if you were a participant, and what would make sense to you? So I hope that gives you a little bit of direction of what you can do with this project. And if you have any further questions in the meantime, feel free to email me anytime. And also, in the meantime, keep up your great work in the classroom. So that's it for me now, and I am signing off.